In the heart of Iran's turbulent political landscape, one man's rise to power became the staff of both reverence and fear. A staunch defender of the Islamic Republic, he carved his path with unwavering loyalty, earning admiration from some as a guardian of the revolution, and condemnation from others as the dreaded angel of death. His very name could send shivers down spines. From his days as a young seminary student to his ascent as Iran's 8th president, a leader forged in the heart of Iran's theocratic system. His tenure remained defined by repression at home, defiance abroad, and the shadow of Khomeini's guiding hand. Who was the man behind the black turban and stern demeanor? This is a tale of ambition, controversy, and an unrelenting faith in the ideals of an Islamic republic. In 1960, in the sacred city of Mashhad, a boy named Ebrahim Raisi was born. His family, having migrated from Zagor near the Afghan border, struggled with poverty, and their challenges only deepened when his father, who was a cleric, passed away when Raisi was just 5 years old. Raisi took to polishing and making shoes to help his family survive. His lineage carried the legacy of scholarship. Therefore, Raisi was determined to follow in his father's footsteps. He left home at 15, journeying to Qum, the intellectual heart of Shia Islam. Raisi immersed himself in religious studies under Iran's most revered clerics. He sat at the feet of scholars like Sayyid Hossein Borijedi and Morteza Motahari. Raisi also passed his courage al-Fiqh to Sayyid Ali Khamenei and Mojtaba Tehrani, absorbing their theological teachings. During that period, the political landscape of Iran trembled with discontent. A wave of revolution swept through the country, and in Qum, young seminaries whispered change, rallying behind the fiery ideals of Ruhollah Khomeini. As the tide turned against the monarchy, Raisi, like many of his peers, became an active participant in the 1978 to 1979 uprising that ended the reign of Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. With the Khomeini's triumphant return from exile, Iran's governance was reshaped under the doctrine of Velayat al-Fiqh. And thus, Raisi's journey to a rising figure began. In the aftermath of the Iranian Revolution, the newly established Islamic Republic faced immense turmoil, from the remnants of the Shah loyalists to the defiant secular left-wing factions. The regime was under siege. Add to this, the escalating conflict with Iraq, and the survival of the revolution became the state's utmost priority. It was in this period that a young Ebrahim Raisi began his career, steadfast in his commitment to the new order. Raisi quickly immersed himself in the judiciary, starting as prosecutor of Masjid Soleimani and steadily climbing the ranks through various regions. By 1985, at just 25 years old, he was appointed deputy prosecutor of Tehran, a critical position at a time when the nation was still grappling with war and internal dissent. In 1988, the Iran-Iraq War was threatening the nation's stability. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini issued an order that would seal Raisi's fate in history. Political prisoners, many accused of collaborating with enemy forces, were to be re-evaluated. A secret tribunal was formed, later known as the Death Committee, and Raisi was among the 4 judges presided over it. Thousands of political prisoners, primarily from leftist and opposition groups such as Mujahideen al-Khalq and the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, were retried behind closed doors. The outcome was chilling. Thousands of men and women were executed, their bodies buried in unmarked graves. An act human rights organization declared as a crime against humanity. In the West, Raisi earned the ominous moniker, the Butcher of Tehran. Despite mounting accusations, Raisi repeatedly denied direct involvement in the executions, though he defended them as necessary under Khomeini's fatwa. His unwavering allegiance to the regime only bolstered his rise. In 1989, he was appointed Tehran's chief prosecutor, a role he held for 5 years, further solidifying his position in the judicial hierarchy. By 2018, Raisi publicly justified his role in the purges.
دفاع کرده از حقوق مردم، از امنیت جامعه، او باید مورد تقدیر قرار بگیرد و مورد تشویق که شما مردم رو در مقابل هجوم‌ها و تهدیدها امنیتشون رو حفظ کردید. من افتخارم آن است که در کسوت دادستان
As Iran entered a new era, under Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in 1989, Ebrahim Raisi was already carving a path through the country's judicial system. His reputation as a headliner solidified when he became deputy to the Chief Justice in 2004, playing a central role in the brutal crackdown on dissidents after the disputed 2009 election. In 2016, Ali Khamenei entrusted him with a powerful new responsibility, the custodianship of the Shrine of Ali Arida in Mashhad. This wasn't just a religious duty. It gave Raisi control over billions of dollars in assets, boosting his standing among Iran's political elite. By the time he ran for presidency in 2017, Raisi had cultivated an image as a tough, anti-corruption crusader attacking then-President Hassan Rouhani for his nuclear deal with the West. Though he lost the election, his populist rhetoric resonated with millions. 2 years later, Raisi became head of the judiciary, launching high-profile corruption trials while selectively shielding allies. He took center stage in investigating the tragic downing of a Ukrainian passenger plane in 2020, though the inquiry ultimately deflected blame from top officials. In 2021, Raisi made his bid for the presidency once again, this time with key opponents disqualified and voter turnout at a low record. He won decisively. He promised economic reform and a tougher stance against the West, but his tenure was soon shadowed by internal unrest. In 2022, the death of Mohsa Amini in the custody of Iran's morality police sparked nationwide protest under the rallying cry, "Woman, Life, Freedom." Raisi responded with force, overseeing a crackdown that left hundreds dead and thousands imprisoned. Despite his hardline domestic policies, Raisi sought to improve Iran's standing abroad. He played a role in restoring ties with Saudi Arabia, its regional arch-rival. Raisi also sought to strengthen ties with both Russia and China, and he made visits to Beijing and Moscow. He also increased the military cooperation with the Kremlin, leading to speculations about Iran selling suicide drones to Putin for use in the Ukraine war. Likewise, he publicly supported the axis of resistance, Iran's alliance of regional allies which want to see US forces driven out. It includes Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Yemen's Houthi movement and Palestinian groups including Hamas, Islamic Jihad and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. During the Israel-Hamas war that began in 2023, Raisi grew increasingly confrontational towards Israel. Amid his rising rhetoric against Israel, and a historic visit to Saudi Arabia to discuss the war, Iran's allies across the region, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and Houthi forces in Yemen, stepped up attacks on Israel. When Israeli forces killed senior officers of the IRGC's Quds forces in Damascus in April 2024, Iran responded 2 weeks later by firing drones and missiles into Israeli airspace for the first time in the history of the two countries. Raisi threatened a severe response if Israel retaliated. But when Israel attacked a military complex in Iran days later, Raisi remained silent on the matter as Iranian officials claimed that the Israeli airstrikes had been intercepted. On a Sunday morning, President Ebrahim Raisi boarded a Bell 212 helicopter on a journey to Iran's northwest. His destination, the remote province of East Azerbaijan, where he was set to inaugurate two major hydroelectric dams, the Kis Kolosi and Koda Afrin, along the Eros River in collaboration with Azerbaijan. Accompanying him were Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, the province governor, Malik Rometi, Tabriz's prominent cleric, Ayatollah Muhammad Ali al-Hashim. After the ceremony, Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev bid him a friendly farewell. Raisi's helicopter lifted off, heading 130 kilometers south to Tabriz. But, as they flew over the rugged misty mountains of East Azerbaijan, something went terribly wrong. At approximately 13:30 local time, the aircraft vanished. For hours, there was silence. 16:00 local time, Iranian state television cautiously reported that the president's helicopter had made a hard landing. a tragedy had unfolded. Interior Minister Ahmad Vahidi later confirmed that Raisi had been traveling in a convoy of 3 helicopters, and it had been forced down due to heavy fog and rain. As darkness fell, certainty loomed. Reports surfaced that faint communication had been established between 2 people on board, sparking a flick of hope. But by dawn, the grim truth was revealed. At around 5:00 local time, rescuers spotted the wreckage, a burnt-out skeleton of metal lying against the mountainside. By the time they reached the site, it was clear. There were no survivors. The bodies, including that of Raisi, were recovered and transported to Tabriz. Back in Tehran, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei declared 5 days of grieving, calling Raisi a martyr and a people's president. As world leaders sent their condolences, the regime braced for what came next. Mourning. Ebrahim Raisi's legacy remains a subject of intense debate. To his supporters, he was a steadfast defender of Iran's Islamic principles, and a leader who sought to strengthen the country against external pressure. To his critics, he was a symbol of authoritarian rule, associated with harsh crackdowns on dissent and uncompromising governance style. Raisi's influence on the nation's political landscape is undeniable, leaving a mark that will shape Iran's future for years to come. His strong relationships on all levels of the Iranian establishment made him a strong contender for a second term, and possibly for the highest post in the land, that of Supreme Leader.